Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. Today is a very special and very exciting day, as earlier today we received roughly 10 minutes of brand new gameplay for the upcoming Star Wars Outlaws at the Ubisoft Forward event. And additionally, Andreas and I were actually invited by Ubisoft to a special press event where we got some exclusive details, and we're going to share all of those with you. We're going to break everything down. We're going to go frame by frame through the brand new gameplay and just break it all down together. This is incredibly exciting. We cannot wait for this game. We are so excited by what Ubisoft showed off. This looks absolutely incredible. The game, the Star Wars game that we have been waiting years for. So let's go ahead and get right into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always. And the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time that Andreas and I upload. Now with all of that out of the way, Andreas, let's jump right into this breakdown.
Let's do it.
Alright guys, so this trailer opens up with a nice shot of space, and it quickly transitions into a shot of a table actually. And on this table there are some pretty cool items, some Star Wars lore items located on this table, including a Pike helmet right there on the left, some sort of crystal here in the middle. We saw a crystal in the reveal trailer yesterday that a Pike was holding, so there is some sort of infatuation that the Pikes will have in this game for whatever these crystals are. We don't think they're Kyber crystals, but some sort of crystal-like structure. There are also data cards on the table, there are sabacc cards and dice, and of course, there is the object that Nyx is attempting to steal and ultimately steals.
Yeah, I believe some of the devs in their description of the scene called it a mollusk-shaped priceless item. So we know that whatever this thing is, it's very, very valuable. And I agree, it does definitely look like a mollusk. And Nyx is going to be taking this little mollusk-like object to Kay here, jumping over a few trinkets and pieces of junk throughout this Pike facility or Pike area that they're using to manufacture and transport, whether it be weapons or whatever contraband the Pikes are up to at this point in time. And this is where we get the really cool transition into the gameplay here. It's really smooth transition. I like it.
Yeah, it's great. I love that we're not going from like a cinematic into a loading screen. It goes from that cinematic right into that gameplay. And here we also get our first look at some of the interface in this game. So you'll notice that it includes mission notifications, such as in this case, leave the area. The top of the screen indicates that the player is currently in a restricted area. And if you take a look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that players will use L1 or left bumper if you're on Xbox to use Kay's blaster and those abilities. And players will use R1 or the right bumper to use Nyx's abilities that he has in this game. And in a few minutes as we progress through this gameplay, you will see the abilities for both the blaster and for Nyx pretty quickly through here, and how versatile they are and how you can kind of change your gameplay style based off of how you want to use these abilities. And as we continue, you see here that Kay is actually sneaking up on this Pike member. You can press square or X to initiate a takedown, a stealth takedown. And what I love about this sequence right here, this animation set, is that she punches him in the face, and then for some reason I am just in love with this animation of her shaking her hand out, like, because it hurts. That kind of thing hurts. And I just think this is a great attention to detail by the devs at Ubisoft to have her shake her hand out from the pain. I don't know why. I just love this animation for some reason.
No, I totally agree with you, Nick. It's little details like that I really enjoy about this demo here. And I think coming up ahead here, we're going to see a little bit more of that stealth gameplay from Kay. One of the details that they did mention during the Behind Closed Doors event is that, Kay is really a thief by trade, that she is masterful when it comes to being stealthy, and she's kind of had to sneak in the shadows throughout her life. And while she might be, a little clumsy at times, that's in the words of Umberly Gonzalez herself. She said that, she might not be perfect at executing some of these stealth maneuvers, but we do know that stealth is going to be a big part of this game. It's going to play a huge role. And one of the tools to your disposal in these stealth moments is going to be Nyx, which they do show off here. You have several options that you can choose with Nyx here. You could see you're highlighting one pike, and Nyx is able to attack this first pike, or you can choose, a separate person, or you can just place Nyx wherever you'd like on this area here to distract people. I'd love to see what Nyx does to distract people, like maybe do a little dance or kind of scream or just cause chaos. I'd love to see that animation. Unfortunately, they did not show it off, but what they do show off is that Nyx can go ahead and press this button here, and that's kind of where the sequence plays out.
Yeah, it's really cool that it also shows with where you can use them to distract or use him to distract, that it shows off the range of that distraction and what enemies will be impacted by that. So you'll know for sure who is able to do that and like who is able to not be distracted by this. And that's just going to be helpful when you determine how you're going to handle these situations. So, of course, as you said, you'll see that Nyx here will actually go up and press the button. That is something they highlighted in the press event. They were really proud that he could press buttons and switches for you, for the player, and you'll see it will move this crate, start moving this crate, and Kay can jump on it and use it to get across. Now, I want to freeze here for just a second, because in this garage area, there's a lot of cool Star Wars lore things. So the first things I want to point out is you'll see some disassembled or partially disassembled TIE fighters. You'll see that they're working on an A-wing right there in the middle, and if you take a look in the background, there's actually a ship partially outside. That is a Sinar Shal Utilipede transport ship, and that is actually the same ship that is on top of Docking Bay 7 at Black Spire Outpost in Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. So just a cool little shout out to that. It's cool to see Disney and Star Wars trying to bring all of these different elements of live action and Galaxy's Edge and the games and try and start tying this all together. So I thought that was really cool. But as we progress through this sequence here, you guys will notice and we will point out a lot of cool Star Wars lore stuff.
Yeah, they really have packed this garage full of detail and lore. On the detailed note, look how many people are operating on this A-Wing. I love how populated areas like this, which are, this is a garage. It's not like a sprawling city or anything, but it still feels lived in. It still feels like there's, an operation going on. It feels like a real area, like there's a story to it. And part of that story is the different pieces of lore that we kind of see throughout this garage here. One detail that I am noticing here is this droid right here. This is a WED Treadwell repair droid, which is a series of maintenance droids that was produced by Cybot Galactica. And these droids are located throughout the galaxy, but particularly in Outer Rim worlds such as Tatooine. I believe we see another one of these Treadwell droids later on in the cinematic part of this trailer, all the way at the end. So maybe we can touch on that a little bit more, but just another cool detail there. And one thing that I love is as Kay drops to the floor here, you can see to the left these pots kind of shake and reverberate in response to the shockwave that she does leave behind from slamming against the grate on the floor. I love that little detail. And speaking of Star Wars lore hidden throughout this garage, I see that protocol droid kind of hanging out on the left-hand side of the frame. Just really cool details. And Nick, I know you loved one of the details coming up on the right-hand side of the frame here too, right?
Yep, as she continues to sneak through this area, you will see a partially disassembled X-34 Landspeeder right there off to the right, the same Landspeeder that Luke Skywalker has in A New Hope. And then as she starts to turn the corner and gets noticed by this enemy, there's a lot of cool stuff to point out here. You'll see that it looks like the character is able, or the player is able to press Y or triangle there when they're caught to maybe try to talk their way out of the situation, because she says something, she's like, oh, I'm just leaving. Like, you can interact with that enemy, and then obviously it doesn't work. But I want to point out something in the background before we get into all of the combat, is that there is another partially disassembled TIE fighter there, and to me, I'm not saying this is what it is, but to me, this looks like one of those TIE Mining Guild fighters that were featured in Star Wars Rebels that they designed differently. They painted them yellow to indicate which ones belong to the Mining Guild and which ones belong to the Empire. It's that similar, almost exact same shade of yellow. Not sure that's what this is, because of course this is an area controlled by the Pikes and not the Mining Guild, but it looks just like it to me.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think that's a really cool detail, just, packing in more of that Star Wars lore. And earlier, Nick, you mentioned that this was a restricted area. And so tipping off this Rodian here has consequences. As you can see in the top of the screen, it does say enemies alerted. And you can see all the different enemies that are alerted with those red exclamation points, and they indicate where they are located. As Kay does run up here for cover, you can see there's just junk flying everywhere. And she finds herself face to face with this Pike here, who activates a personal shield. This is very similar to the personal energy shields that we did see the Gungans use, of course, in the Phantom Menace. But I believe this is a new personal energy shield that we have not seen before. And you can see that her blaster fire does repel off of that shield, and so she's going to have to use some different angles to get through and penetrate that shield and take out this Pike here. And that's where we see this blaster selection menu for the first time.
Yeah, this gives us a great look at what the combat interface will look like in this game. Of course, we saw the reticle and the cooldown bar throughout this sequence for the blaster. Here, we get to finally see what happens when you press L1 or left bumper for the blaster abilities. You'll be able to press A for blaster, B for a focused shot, or square to activate the stun mode on your blaster. So there's a lot of different options, like you said, for how you can go about on just the combat side with the blaster. There's also hand-to-hand combat you'll see through here. You'll notice at the top how Andreas mentioned that it changed from restricted area to enemies alerted. Like you just see all of the user interface change in the combat here. You'll notice there is a compass there at the top, and it shows you the location or the direction of where the different enemies are, indicated by a red diamond. So just a lot of cool stuff going on here, a lot of stuff to help the players out, a lot of different ways you can approach combat here clearly.
And it looks like the player here chooses to go with the focused module, which is B or circle on the PlayStation. And the focused shot does go right through the shield here, and it allows her to use this hand-to-hand combat takedown, which plays out very nicely for Kay. And then we kind of get behind cover. There's some great details that I just want to point out here. First of which is when she uses the blaster module here, you can see that some of her blaster bolts do hit the TIE fighter behind some of the pikes here, and it causes debris to kind of fly in every direction. You can see when she shoots through this person, there's kind of debris falling off of that TIE fighter, and it actually causes damage to the side panel of the TIE fighter itself. And there's some more damage that you can see later on that I will highlight in just a moment. But I just think it's little details like that are really cool.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing as we progress through and kind of let this footage play out here of this combat. I've seen a lot of people on social media and Twitter say that they are not a huge fan of the way the combat looks. They don't like the way the blaster combat looks. And personally, I'm not seeing that. I don't agree with that. I think this looks phenomenal. I think it looks super chaotic. I love the look of the blasters. I've seen a lot of people complain about that, but I love how vibrant they are. I love how they look like they carry a punch. They carry a lot of energy behind them. There's explosions when they hit. When it hits things, it explodes. This just looks like a very dangerous and chaotic situation to be in, which is exactly what I want from my blaster combat in Star Wars. I just personally am not getting the criticism here, other than perhaps the person who was playing the sequence needs to work on their aim a little bit. But other than that, I really liked the look of the blaster combat so far.
Now, one thing that we are going to see coming up next is Kay doesn't just have her blaster at her disposal to get herself out of tricky situations like this. She also has Nyx here, and Nyx has a few more options, even in a combat scenario. Earlier, we saw a few things that Nyx can do in more of a stealthy encounter, but this is kind of when shit is hitting the fan. You can see all the way to the left, Nyx can actually open that door in the back. I have no idea what that does, but I'm very curious to see what that does do. And then Nyx can also fetch things. So here you're going to see on the right, there's maybe some health that Nyx can fetch. Or what they end up doing is selecting this blaster here that an enemy drops, and Nyx can go fetch that blaster. And of course, like before, Nyx can also distract, which you can see for just a brief frame there. That is the distract option, which I just love the little icon of Nyx looking like he's like yelling at somebody or something. It's just, very cool. But you can see that Nyx grabs this blaster and it actually ends up being somewhat useful to Kay, but it does seem like it jams or something like that.
Yeah, there's definitely appears to be like a set number of blaster bolt shots, or once it heats up and overheats, you're not able to use it anymore, because she ends up picking up, which is actually an A300 blaster rifle, which was used by the Rebel Alliance Special Forces during Rogue One, just throw that in there. But once she is out of blaster bolts or overheats, she drops it. And it's cool that she like doesn't put it away or whatever. She does something that's realistic. It's out. She kind of shakes it. She goes, like, what the hell? Like, it doesn't work. And she just drops it and lets it go. And then she makes the decision of, I think it's time to get out of here. And I just love the way these animations are all playing together. It kind of brings that cinematic feel to the game that we're looking for. And as we progress out of here and actually get out of this Pike area, you will see that there is actually some sort of grappling mechanic in this game, because she uses Y to grapple onto this thing to help lower herself down. I'm interested to see how fleshed out this system turns out to be in this game, because I have a feeling it's going to be more than just being able to rappel down things. I feel like you're going to be able to swing to things and all kinds of different things like you can in other games. I think this is going to be a little more robust than just being able to rappel down from this area. And then we finally get onto her speeder. We get to see what the speeder gameplay looks like, not what it just looks like in the cinematic. And we also see here that the interface changes once again as soon as you are on the speeder. There is a yellow bar on the bottom right that actually indicates the speed boost, which is triggered by clicking the left stick. There is also, as we progress through this sequence here, you'll see that she will actually get involved into some combat here, that there is a blaster Deadeye style mechanic from Red Dead Redemption type thing. We also saw something like this in Jedi Survivor, where players can trigger using the left stick and the right stick. And it looks like, at least in this segment, I'm assuming you'll probably be able to upgrade this or whatever, that you can pick up to 5 separate enemies to completely just take out with this ability.
Yeah, this ability looks really cool, and I'm wondering the different ways that we are going to be able to upgrade that ability as we do make our way here through one of the more beautiful vista areas on this planet here. That ship flying overhead was that ship that you pointed out earlier, Nick, from Galaxy's Edge, which is really cool. And here we kind of start driving up to one of the satellite areas that we're going to make our way to. But as we are making our way there, one thing that I do want to point out is the different NPCs that we'll meet on the way. You can see here there's a Trandoshan on a speeder bike here that is passing by you, and not just the different NPCs, but you also have wildlife, which I have noticed throughout this trailer. There's a lot of wildlife. These worlds are lived in, they're packed full of cool things and details for you to point out. And one thing that's awesome that I love about this game is the reputation feature. Nick, I don't know if you want to kind of get into that a bit more, but you can see that prompted on the top left.
Yeah, I think this was one of the very cool and biggest reveals from this gameplay, was where it says Pike Syndicate reputation and then down. And this is because Kay just stole something from the Pike Syndicate, therefore her reputation with them has decreased. And there was also this cool dialogue, if you go back and watch the gameplay, between our friend, the commando droid, his name is actually ND5, and Kay, where they talk about like, oh, I guess we can't work with the Pikes anymore. And she's like, oh, like they'll forgive me eventually. Like there's just like this cool dialogue exchange that happens before it shows what has happened to your reputation with various syndicates or various factions. And so what this indicates to us is that you can build up or destroy your relationship with different factions in this game. And this will probably determine how friendly they are with you, if they'll trade with you, if they'll do different things with you. Perhaps there's side missions with these factions, or it might just decide or determine that they're just going to shoot you on sight when they see you. If you piss off the Pikes enough, they're just going to be on you immediately. They're not even going to give you a chance. They see you, they're going to go after you. So this is a really cool system that we haven't seen very much, if at all, in Star Wars games. So it's really cool to see a system like this, more well fleshed out systems, especially for an open world game, make its way into the Star Wars universe. I'm really excited to see how deep they go with this system.
And one thing that I think we can come to expect is they've actually confirmed to us that there will be syndicates such as the Hutts. And they even created a brand new syndicate, the Ashiga clan, for this game. And I imagine that each of the different syndicates, including the Pikes here, the Hutts, and the Ashiga clan, will have their own reputation meters that you will have to gauge. Maybe you might not want to screw over all of the syndicates because it'll close doors for you. One of the quotes that they kept saying is, "You live and die by your reputation." It's leading me to believe that there are going to be consequences to screwing over the Pikes. It's not going to be like Kay is saying, like, oh, they'll forget about it. I think this will be something that will have long-lasting gameplay implications, and you might want to make some allegiances. You might want to maybe screw over the Pikes, but then you might want to build a relationship with the Hutts, for example, because you never know when one of these syndicate relationships can actually come in handy and end up paying off in this game as you do try to progress as an outlaw in the Star Wars universe.
So as we progress through this gameplay, we will actually learn where we are at here. We are actually in Janta's Hope. That is the settlement that we are entering, and we are on the planet of Tashara, which is a brand new planet that Massive and Ubisoft have created for the Star Wars universe. It kind of feels like this will be this game's Kobo, but not insofar as this will be like the biggest and best planet and the most open world planet, but this is the planet that Ubisoft and Massive are bringing to the table for this game, for the Star Wars universe. This is the one this is their baby. This is the one they're really proud of.
Yeah, I really like the look of this planet, and this settlement that we're coming up on is just one of the very many settlements that we will find on Tashana itself. There's also a bigger, more populated city, but I think one thing that I do want to talk about just for a second is how you're going to be navigating across planets like this with the speeder. And we did get some more information on the speeder here. One thing that I'm pointing out on the right-hand side is you will see that there is a speeder jump here, and these are things that you can take advantage of. They said that you would be able to perform stunts, you can drift with the speeder, you can do these jumps with the speeders, so the speeder will be something that is actually fun to use. You're not just using it like to get from point A to point B, you can actually get there in style. And here we're going to be coming up on one of the smaller settlements in this game. There will be much larger populated cities, including the capital city of Tashana, which is called Miragana. And we'll actually show a few areas that they've confirmed are Miragana later on. It really gives us that Coruscant vibe, that metropolitan vibe. But even the settlement here, Nick, it's not like it's very desolate. It's actually populated. Like, there are NPCs all over the place. I'm seeing, just on the left-hand side. Nick, I know you'll love that Trandoshan in the trench coat up there blowing in the wind. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's just a very populated and dense-looking area. And like you said, this is one of the smaller settlements on Tushara. So very cool to see this, and it's very exciting to see what else there might be on these planets as we adventure across the galaxy with Kay here. And here we're going to actually meet up with ND5 at this cantina, and there are a lot of cool just Star Wars lore details even situated within this cantina here. So first off, there are these Arubesh signs. So we'll kind of work our way through here. I'll start with the middle sign because, Andreas, I know you're really excited to talk about the one on the left. So the middle sign is actually the menu for this establishment. It says foods at the top, and then it says Foa bread, and then honestly the second one, it's a little blurry for us. We can't quite tell exactly what a few of the letters are. We think it's like Kushnu or something like that. We're not entirely sure. The third one is Borgola stew, and then you have Sorelian Gam stew, and then Empona noodles. So it's just a bunch of different foods that this establishment offers in the Arabesh. And then on the right there, I think this is hilarious just given our relationship with this language in Jedi Survivor. There's actually a Domabesh sign right there, which is shocking to me to see. Domabesh, and it just says Mel, M-E-L, which again, if you guys have been watching this channel or Jedi Survivor content, you'll know that we have indicated in the past, and what we know about Domabesh is it's usually just gibberish and it doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that they're featuring Domabesh here in this planet, because it is normally a more encrypted language that few people are aware of. So it would make more sense to use Galactic Basic in this context so that more people can order off of your menu. Jantas might want to consider using Arabesh so that more people can understand what's going on in the menu. But in all seriousness, one major shout out here to the dev team for one of my favorite Easter eggs that I've ever seen in a trailer. Just something that's really, really cool and just, hidden in the top left-hand side of this trailer here behind a beam. This sign on the left. Nick, you hit it on the head. I'm super excited to talk about this. It says on the left, Arca Euroka, and it also says Grand Champion just behind that beam. Don't ask us how we translated it. It took way too long going frame by frame, but it's talking about Arca Euroka, who was a human jockey who rode fathiers at the racetrack in the city of Canto Bight on the planet Cantonica. This is, of course, one of the jockeys that we saw in the fathier races in The Last Jedi, and I love this little detail. You can even see the little picture of Arca Euroka himself on the left-hand side. Just super cool to pack this small detail behind a beam for us to find. I love details like this hidden in trailers, so thanks so much to the dev team for hiding this one for us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and then as we progress through, we continue through this, we'll also see that the bartender is a Quarren, there's an Ithorian drinking at the bar, there's a Trandoshan off to the right, just so many different species and life populating throughout this game. Looks like there might be some like Melurons or some sort of Star Wars fruit behind him, behind the bartender. On the right, you'll see there's a sign that says stop. There's a jukebox screen here coming up where the Arabesh text says stars. Like, there's just so many cool details just placed in this cantina alone on this one settlement on one of the planets in this game. It's just so Star Wars.
Yeah, there's even I love like the patrons in the cantina. You see like a Rodian in the back just having a meal with a Twi'lek, and later on you can see that there's a Trandoshan that's just passed out drunk. But I love little details like that just really make this place a vibrant, lived-in universe.
And then here we finally get to meet ND5, hear what he sounds like, get to know his personality a little bit, what his intentions are, what your intentions are here. And actually, your intentions here are to meet a Mon Calamari broker whose name is Danka, and you have what appears to be an established relationship, or at least ND5 knows who this person is. And you'll see that you're actually meeting with Danka and a mysterious Imperial lieutenant who's kind of gone dirty a little bit. She's a little corrupted, and we know it is an Imperial lieutenant just from the rank bars on her uniform. Like, those are the lieutenant bars. So if you're wondering how we know what her rank is, that is how we know. So you'll learn here through this dialogue, through this situation, that you'll actually have the choice in this game to do things such as bribe or not bribe your way out of situations. And depending on what decision you make, you'll have to live with the consequences of that. And by choosing not to bribe your way out of here and just be like, you know what? I'm not doing this with you, Imperial. We're not doing this. I'm done with you. We're done. I'm not paying your stupid tax. You actually cause quite a scene for yourself here as you cause yourself to become wanted, and that opens up a whole cool system for us to talk about, and a brand new thing that we're incredibly excited to see in Star Wars games. It's like where GTA meets Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. I really love this system. Before we kind of do a deep dive into that, you can see that you do, by the decision not to bribe that Imperial officer, get to keep 2,500 credits. So there will be a credit system in this game. I'm really, really curious to know what we can spend these credits on. Like, what is the point of having these credits? I know one thing we can spend them on is bribing people, so that's one thing that we know that we could spend these credits on. But it also, I'm just wondering what valuables there are to buy, whether it be weaponry, upgrades, maybe upgrades for your ship. And you can see one of the coolest details in this trailer here is when you do screw over the Empire and you see these wanted screens start to pop up across the bar, giving off a vibe of like, wow, do not cross the Empire in this universe, because they will let everyone know that you have crossed them. And you can see the Arabesh in these wanted signs do say wanted, and then it says Kay Vess, her full name. So just letting everyone know that she is in trouble.
There being a wanted poster already of Kay Vess might provide some story insights there that she has a history with the Imperials. They know who she is. She's been arrested before. Like, they know who they're looking for here. So she clearly has run in with the Imperials in the past. And second, what I love about that detail, and why that might be my favorite detail from this trailer, where the screens in the bar get changed like in real time from that to a wanted poster as she calls the lieutenant calls the Imperial command to have you caught, is it makes this game in this world feel alive. Things react to what is happening in this game. You mentioned it earlier with the pots shifting when she jumps down. Like, there's so much kinetic energy in this game, and it feels alive, and things react to different things. And I love that. It might be a small thing, but it just helps with the immersion. It helps the games feel alive. It helps the player, at least me, get lost in this world, lost in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Nick. Like, seriously, that it really does feel like one of the most lived in universes that I can't wait to jump into. And as we progress forward here, this wanted poster blares, kind of leaving your heart, your stomach, as the Empire is coming after you. This wanted sign says imminent threats to public safety or Imperial security, and they did let us know that the wanted levels in this game do carry some heavy consequences. You can see the wanted level interface on the top right hand side. The Imperial logo does pop up, and you can see that it's almost like the right side is glowing red. But if you do fill up the entire Imperial logo red and you get to the highest levels, they told us that the Empire will be throwing everything at you, that you really don't want to get to that level. And it just gets my mind racing of the sorts of possibilities. Like, if I could design, my dream scenario of a Star Wars game, what would I have as the 5-star wanted level be? I think honestly, like, I'd have like Darth Vader chasing you down or something crazy like that. And it just leads me to wonder what the Empire is going to be throwing at you in this game. I'm not sure if it's going to be Darth Vader, but that would be really cool.
That would be freaking crazy. I think Vader's probably a little preoccupied now because this game takes place right after Empire and right before Return of the Jedi. He's kind of dealing with his son and all of that, so it might not be Vader, but I'm very interested to see if, like, maybe the level of troops change. Like, this reminds me of the GTA system, and like, as you increase your level, they throw more cops at you, and then they throw that special SWAT team at you if you reach 5 stars. I'm wondering if, like, they'll start with like maybe lower level Imperial troops, and then maybe they'll move it up to stormtroopers, and then maybe they'll move it up to, like, I don't know, death troopers or some more of the special forces type troopers, or maybe they'll bring ATSTs in or something like that. They'll bring in tanks, like all of those different types of weapons and tools the Empire has at their disposal. It's very interesting. I'm very excited to see what they do exactly with this system. Now, as we progress through here, we get some awesome more Star Wars lore stuff. We see a Sentinel-class landing shuttle land overhead. I've been waiting to see one of these forever. We talk about these Imperial shuttles so much in these gameplay breakdowns and story trailer breakdowns and all of these. So it's cool to actually finally see a Sentinel-class shuttle because we've done so much research on the damn thing. We also will see a protocol droid coming up here, an astromech droid, just so much cool Star Wars stuff here. And then we finally reach Kay's ship, which we actually learned what exactly the ship is and what it's called. It is actually an EML 850 light freighter, and it is called the Trailblazer.
And the Trailblazer is pretty cool. It's got some real estate in there. And the first thing that we see in the Trailblazer is there's a workbench near the door. They run by this workbench, and it only flashes for a second. But I am really curious what you can do on this workbench. We know that Kay has her blaster, and that there are, different plugins that you can use, different components that you can use. So maybe I'm guessing that these are different abilities that you can add so that you can have more than just like the blaster mode or the focused shot or whatever she was using earlier on. Maybe you can modify your stun ability. Really curious. This rabbit hole can go as deep as they want it to, maybe even customize the look of your blaster and other gadgets in the game. So I'm really curious to see how deep they take it. And there's really so many possibilities here, right?
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see, especially since Jedi Survivor just came out, and this was such an important feature of that game, to see how this workbench feature compares to how the Jedi Survivor workbench feature turned out, because that one was incredibly robust and a really cool interface and all of that. You'll see as Kay runs through here, you'll kind of see the area off to the right that you can go and explore more of the Trailblazer. I'm really excited to see how big this ship turns out to be. And then we enter the cockpit, the door opens. I just love these details of the door opening and all of this. There's just so many cool details that you could tell that Massive took their time developing all of this stuff, all of these mechanics. And you'll see that when you sit down, players actually have an option once they are at the helm of the ship. They can do pretty much 3 different things here. They can press B or circle to stand up, they can press A or X to take off, or they can press Y or triangle to open the map. I'm assuming that is the galaxy map, but it might even be a local map because, Andreas, this is not a pre-cut cinematic here where we just press A to take off or X to take off, and then we just see a cinematic play or a cutscene play out, and then it dumps us off in space after a loading screen because, Andreas, right here, we're about to see the one thing that we have been asking for decades now, and that is ground to space.
Yes, it is. And it looks like there is, a minor cutscene. Just like if we're going on technicalities here, there is a minor liftoff cutscene. But then, it's I guess it's air, it's free air to space. I'll call it that. Like you are freely flying the Trailblazer here within the atmosphere of this planet or this moon, and then you are able to pierce through the atmosphere and go into space. That is what we have been wanting to see for years. And you can actually fly around the Trailblazer in the local space area around the the planet or the moon of Tashara, and we are exposed to the entire Tashal system here, which I love that they take a little peek back here to look at the moon there, and there's actually maybe another planet as well that I'm not sure if we're able to explore or not, but it just leads me to wonder, how much are you able to explore within this system? Is it like, if you can see it, you can go there? I really hope it is, because that would really emphasize how much you can explore in this game and in this universe. Really cool stuff. I cannot emphasize how cool this is.
And you say, like, yes, there is technically that small little cutscene, but to me, that reminds me more of the No Man's Sky, where there's that liftoff animation that it locks you into, but then it immediately gives you control and you go ground to space. It looks like it's like an identical system to me. It's a very small cutscene. It's just like the takeoff animation. They just put it into the cinematic aspect ratio, I guess we'll say. But it's not really a cutscene because it's one continuous shot. So it's it's ground to space, dude. It's the closest we're gonna get. All right, it's ground to space. But
it's I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rain on your parade. It's ground to space. It's ground to space, guys.
So as we continue here, there is something I want to talk about. It is another unique interface that we see here. So as we progress through and we get into combat, this is our best look at it right here. So you'll see that there is a weapon reticle, just like there is for the blaster, but this time it's for the Trailblazer. There's some sort of like stamina bars or health bars or speed bars surrounding it. I'm not entirely sure what is going on there. If you guys were able to figure out, or let us know down below in the comments. In the top left, you'll notice that Imperial logo that Andreas was talking about, where it'll identify your current wanted level, very similar to the star system in GTA. In the bottom left, you'll see that players can actually use right on the D-pad to activate the hyperdrive, and we'll see how the hyperdrive works as we progress through here. It's not just press a button on the map, hold A to activate hyperdrive to jump to warp speed. You actually have control over the hyperdrive. You just have to make sure that you're not in combat, because you can be impacted or interrupted. You have to be able to get to hyperspace uninterrupted. So that's kind of how they kind of keep you from doing it when you're in combat. And then you'll also notice on the bottom right that there are a couple different things down there. You can use A or X for missiles. You can use B or circle to switch back to the looks like the regular blaster cannons of the Trailblazer. You can use X or square to repair the ship. And then there are also 2 bars that indicate the level of the Trailblazer shields. That is that blue bar that once you get hit, you can see it hitting the shield of the ship. You can see the ship actually has a shield. That's so cool. Such great detail. And then that bottom bar on the right is the overall health bar of the whole of the ship. But as we progress through here, we see some space combat. I mean, we're going from the ground combat, we're jumping on a speeder, we're going across this whole planet, we're going into a cantina, we piss off an Imperial, we get a wanted level, we run to our ship, ground to space, seamless transition, and then we're in a space battle. Come on, guys. Think about what I just said. This is freaking incredible.
Yeah, it is. And one thing that I do like about the local space for Tashara is the personality that this area has. One thing that they did say in the behind closed door presentation is that they wanted every single different system or space area to have its own personality. The Tashara system being that personality of this, it has like this red tinge atmosphere to it, and there's debris everywhere. So I'm wondering what the different atmospheres of all the different systems are going to be in this game. And then, Nick, to make this situation even crazier, you're gonna punch into Hyperdrive, and on the left here you can see the Hyperdrive menu, which you see they will select the Akiva orbit option. But if you look in the bottom left, you can see that there's a D-pad command to cycle through the different destinations in this game, and we did translate the other two destinations that are showing there, and unfortunately they do translate to unknown coordinates, which opens a whole discussion here, because how do you discover new coordinates in this game? It's going to affect the way that this open world unfolds and becomes explorable to the player. What I'm wondering is, do you just find coordinates and then you can punch them into your hyperdrive and go to new areas, and then this world becomes more and more open? Or does the story have to take you from place to place, and once you go to a place, then you can return to that place by punching in that coordinate in the hyperdrive? And until that point where you arrive somewhere in the story, you don't have those coordinates just yet. It's just a thing to think about with this open world and this open universe concept here.
Yeah, there's a billion different ways you could get these coordinates. You could buy them, you could earn them, you could find them. Like, there's all kinds of different things you can do here. And then this is the last little segment of gameplay we get here, and I love this. This is kind of what I was talking about. You have to calibrate the hyperdrive, and if you get hit, that interrupts the hyperdrive. So that's kind of how they punish you for trying to jump to hyperspace when you're in combat, is that if you get hit, it interrupts it. But again, you're not activating a cutscene. You're not pressing X on a minimap. You are doing all of these functions yourself. You're calibrating the hyperdrive. You're picking your destination, calibrating the hyperdrive. You're flying around, making sure you're not in combat. And then once you finally have it calibrated, it gives the control back to the player to press on the left stick to jump to hyperspace. Like, you're doing this all yourself, and then it jumps into hyperspace here. A seamless transition in. It's not a loading screen. It might be a hidden loading screen, but it's not a cutscene. And then you drop out of hyperspace in the orbit of, or the space surrounding the new area, that being the Akiva system. So this is just like, it's so cool. It's so seamless. It's so much control to the player. I love this.
Yeah, I love this too. Like, just how quick that was. Like, we weren't sitting in a wormhole for 5 years there. It did seem pretty similar to what we've seen in across the different Star Wars mediums. And I'm wondering, how it's going to be once we get our hands on this game. Is it going to be a little longer? We saw that with Lego Star Wars, where Lego Star Wars showed this, quick and seamless thing, and then it actually ended up being a little bit longer once we actually got our hands on the game. So I'm wondering how this is going to be. But just with the PlayStation 5 capabilities, the true next-gen capabilities, I'm hoping that it is a seamless jump, just like we are seeing here. And talk about different personalities from system to system. This system does appear to have more of like an asteroid belt vibe to it. Reminds me of Empire Strikes Back here, the Akiva system. And we do believe that we actually get to see what we believe to be Akiva later on here, as it does kind of shift into this more cinematic area of this trailer here. We do cycle through several different locations, and I believe the first one here is this lush jungle area, which we do think is Akiva just based on what we know about Akiva, right, Nick?
Yeah, it matches the topography. We know that Akiva mainly features, jungles and stuff like that. It just matches it. It looks like that's where they're coming from. Like, that's the planet they're going up on. It just matches. Everything matches. We believe this is Akiva, and then it cuts to a desert planet. This looks like Tatooine to us. We know Tatooine is in the game. It matches the overall look of Tatooine. We keep going. We get these cool cinematic shots, not really gameplay. It cuts again to another location here after we see an ATST come in. We see Kijimi and Kijimi City, and not only do we see it, we see that we can actually walk around it. No thanks to Lego Star Wars or anything, but I don't want to get into that conversation. But we're actually getting to explore Kijimi, and I'm so excited for this because I loved the look of Kijimi in The Rise of Skywalker, and then they blow it up right away, and then the only game it's featured in is LEGO Star Wars, and you can't even go there outside of the story mission. They just let you go into the orbit surrounding it and it taunts you. So I'm so excited to actually explore around Kijimi City.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's as big as this looks here, like, oh my gosh. I don't think it's going to be, just because that's like in the too good to be true realm, but at least, you know, this area here does give off the vibe that we want to see out of Kijimi, and I know there's a whole spice trade going on in Kijimi, so I'd love to see how the different syndicates are operating in this point in time in the timeline. Also, we are seeing a return of the Treadwell droid. Things are coming up Treadwell droid right now, so love to see a return of the Treadwell droid in this trailer. And then we are returning back to the cantina from earlier. Jonta, we see the full sign here in Arabesh. And this is actually the cantina that we saw in the trailer, the cinematic trailer from yesterday, where we were only able to see the Arabesh A on the bottom, and we speculated that it would say Jonta from top to bottom. So it's just nice to see that we ended up being correct there, and that it is the Jonta cantina, which is awesome. Now, this is an area that we originally thought was Coruscant, but Nick, it's actually not. This is the capital of Tashar. This is the city of Miragana, which they have told us will be a packed, lived-in, populated city area. And I cannot wait to travel around the capital city of Miragana in this game, because it looks really cool. It's giving me that Coruscant vibe. Love it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what this planet has to offer as well, with all of these different locations. This city looks completely different than Jonta's Hope. I'm excited to see how that goes, how extended that goes.
And then we only have, you know, a few quick scenes here. One thing that I will point out about this scene here, it does look like this is an Imperial, either an Imperial base or the inside of an Imperial ship. But one thing I will note is that there is Pike presence on this ship. First and foremost, we see a Pike to the left-hand side of the screen, and also we see the Pike emblem stamped on some of the cargo here that Kay is hiding behind, which is interesting because this cargo is also stamped with the Imperial insignia. So it's leading me to believe that the Pikes are really dealing with the Imperials here in this point in time, which is totally canonically accurate. And you can see all the way in the back of the shot as well, there's multiple Pike emblems stamped on ships in the back. So I'd love to explore the relationship between the Pike Syndicate and the Empire as they kind of grapple for power, and the Empire turns a blind eye for certain activities, but then maybe stamps down on certain other activities. And here we see Kay, you know, going face to face with the Empire again, just with mouse droids whirring and stormtroopers falling. And you know, I think that's kind of the end of the trailer here. That's everything.
Yeah, there was a lot to get through. So much cool gameplay, you know, roughly 10 minutes, great cinematic scenes as well. So much information revealed about what this game is going to be like, how it's going to play, what the different mechanics are going to be. You know, we were really excited by the trailer we got yesterday, and we were kind of nervous about what the gameplay was going to look like from today, because we knew we were getting it today. And I would say that this has far exceeded my expectations. This is offering so much cool stuff, so many cool open world things, so much seamless transition and attention to detail. I am just so excited to learn more about this game, get more trailers, get our hands on this game, hopefully in early 2024. Hopefully Ubisoft is able to actually reach that goal that they were set out for themselves, but I don't know, maybe it will be later on in 2024, but I really hope it turns out to be early quarter 2024. I hope they can pull that off, guys. But let us know down below in the comments what you thought of the gameplay, what you thought of all of the trailers and cinematics we've seen for this game so far. Just let us know your thoughts down below. I know I speak for Andreas and I that we are incredibly excited for this game. We're so excited to learn more and get our hands on it, all of that good stuff. So let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you all next time.